If you need help deciding whether Company of Heroes 3 is the right World War II RTS for you, this video will answer all of your questions. We'll start with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, so you can tap out early if it doesn't appeal to you. After that, we'll look at the detailed mechanics, so you can get a real feel for what it's like to actually play the game, while contrasting similar games along the way. Then we'll finish up by answering some practical questions to help you decide whether CO3 is worth your time and money today. CO3 is a fast-paced RTS centered around a skirmish mode where you use a small number of squads to capture control points for resources so you can upgrade those squads and produce a few more, along with a handful of vehicles to secure more victory points than your opponent. There's a traditional single-player campaign set in North Africa with 8 missions under the command of Erwin Rommel, fighting the British in 1942 from Ajdabiya to El Alamein. Then there's the turn-based campaign set in Italy, with an overworld map and the occasional real-time skirmish, much like the Total War series. Then finally, there is the multiplayer skirmish mode for those who want to put their hotkey reflexes to the test in PvP or play against the AI, with a new tactical pause feature for those of us who aren't as fast as we used to be. So if you like the sound of calling in off-map artillery support while controlling individual grenade throws and making use of a detailed cover system akin to the Men of War series, Gates of Hell Ostfront, and Iron Harvest, then CO3 might be your cup of tea. The game was a complete mess when it launched in February 2023, hence all the negative reviews you'll have seen, but since then it's received significant visual, audio, and gameplay upgrades. Better late than never, so bear that in mind when looking at reviews or opinions from before December 2023. With that out of the way, let's dive into the detail of what you actually do in Company of Heroes 3. Starting in January 1942, the North African campaign sees you fighting against the British as the German Afrika Korps, with 4 difficulty settings that can be changed mid-mission. The missions include a healthy amount of defensive and offensive operations, including both time-limited and optional objectives, ranging from destroy that convoy before it escapes to your typical capture several strongpoints, then hold them against counterattacks, with only the occasional cameo from the Italian forces. Between missions, you'll see artistic cutscenes showing the viewpoint of a Jewish family from Benghazi, having to live through both German and British occupation. Although powerful and emotive, the cutscenes don't really link up with the story missions in any way, so they end up feeling like a disjointed sideshow. Overall, the North African campaign's gameplay is solid enough, but ultimately doesn't offer anything new to RTS gamers. With several missions ending far too soon, just as you're starting to enjoy them, the whole campaign offers little bang for your buck, taking a mere 5 hours to complete from start to finish. Skirmish matches against the AI, friends or online foes are relatively unchanged from CO2. If you haven't played the series before, you basically capture resource points to expand your forces so you can capture and hold more victory points than your opponent. But there are some key differences from previous installments of the franchise and other World War II-based RTS games, which we'll summarize now. There are 4 playable factions: the USA, Brits, German Wehrmacht, and Deutsche Afrika Korps, each distinct in their units and playstyles, even though shoehorning 2 German factions into the game feels underwhelming. Each faction then has a selection of battle groups, which replace doctrines from CO1 and commanders from CO2. They are basically tech trees that unlock units and abilities during a skirmish as you accumulate commander points, effectively creating sub-factions within each faction. Once you choose your first ability, you are then committed to that battle group for that skirmish, with mutually exclusive options as you progress through the tech tree. Some are infantry-focused, others mechanized, defensive, or all-out aggressive. As in previous titles, buildings can be garrisoned by a squad, providing great lines of sight and map control. But fear not if your opponent has garrisoned all the buildings. You'll see a separate health bar for the building itself, so you could just blow it up with artillery, wiping the squad inside. But new to CO3, certain squads have the Breach ability, where they storm a building to remove the enemy squads from inside before taking up residence themselves. Plus, a height advantage provides a damage bonus while also negating enemy troops' cover. After buildings collapse, they leave rubble. That's not new in itself, but in CO3, rubble can be used as cover by infantry. In fact, new cover can be created almost anywhere, with sandbags, behind destroyed vehicles, or in craters from explosions. Not only that, you can remove your opponent's cover with explosions or tanks running through walls just as easily. And considering how important good cover for your squads is, the ability to create and destroy it so dynamically has a huge impact on the game. Infantry squads gain experience as they rack up kills, which unlocks further abilities mid-skirmish, such as a choice between increased sprint speed or weapon damage. So you've got to keep them alive by cycling your squads efficiently, retreating them back to base to heal up, then getting them back out into the field. But the more of the map you control, the further your squads have to run back and forth, which is why having a squad hitch a ride on the back of a tank is another useful new mechanic in Co 3. You'll see motorbikes, Grants, Crusaders, Matildas, Churchills, Shermans, Tigers, Flak Panzers, Hellcats, Stuarts, Panzer IIIs, Panzer IVs, Stugs, Marders, and more. But ultimately the range of vehicles is limited compared to, say, Steel Division 2 or Ostfront. You may have noticed you'll see XP and side hit indicators, which can be turned off in the settings, but unfortunately the cartoony coloured stripes are a permanent feature. New to Co 3 is a specific side armor value, and when under fire, different effects such as crew shock or engine damage can slow the vehicle. You can even salvage the wreck of a vehicle, including enemy vehicles, if you're savvy enough to do so under fire. Defensive structures are limited to laying anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, along with barbed wire and sandbags, so no trenches unfortunately, though you can dig foxholes and create static gun emplacements for MGs and mortars. You can choose from a variety of off-map support for your troops, including artillery bombardment, bombing runs, aerial reconnaissance, dive bombers, and paratroopers, depending on your battle group. Seen by many as a meaningless gimmick, Tactical Pause is a new feature that enables you to assess the situation and issue a string of orders. It's a lifesaver for those who don't enjoy the stress of RTS battles or have slowed down a bit in their old age, like me. But it is entirely optional if you enjoy splitting your mind into 4 pieces, and of course it is not available in PvP multiplayer. Merit is a free currency that you receive for completing regular challenges, which can be spent on both cosmetics and new battle groups. And there is also a paid-for currency called War Bonds if you want to avoid the grind. A recent addition to the game is the ability to record and watch replays. They're easy to control and contain more features than the Co 2 equivalent. Overall, the visuals and audio are decent, and the gameplay is fun, but the style lean towards a cartoony look and feel, lacking the grit that I know many of you will be looking for. In the Total War style turn-based campaign, you'll command both British and American forces, storming the beaches of Italy, capturing towns and cities until you eventually capture Rome, with the option to select separate difficulty levels for the Grand Strategy map and the RTS battles. Capturing towns will increase your resource income for manpower, munitions, and fuel, which in turn you will spend calling in more infantry, armor, and artillery companies, along with planes and ships, while capturing ports will increase your population cap. Real-time skirmishes when attacking or defending smaller towns can be over in as little as 10 minutes, whereas more notable locations require a longer set-piece mission with a variety of objectives specific to that city. And if you revisit a certain town, you'll see the damage left over from the previous encounter. When your companies engage enemy companies on the campaign map, the encounter is auto-resolved based on a rock-paper-scissor counter system, along with experience, supply levels, and nearby support. Each company can also deploy one type of detachment, which are static defenses that also have a rock-paper-scissor relationship with enemy companies. Although basic, this counter system ensures that you are incentivized to utilize the full roster of company and detachment types. In enemy territory, your companies begin to run out of supply. Once it's run out, they start to lose health, suffer reduced movement range, and can't use their skills or abilities. To replenish a unit's supply, you can move back to friendly territory or use a cargo plane to drop supplies, provided it can get through the enemy anti-air detachments. Each company type has an ability that they share, but individual companies also roll one trait at random. Artillery companies will always be able to bombard from across the map, but a specific company might also give you a free bomber when you take an airfield, for example. And much like Total War, you can choose each company's stance. For example, March increases movement range while disabling the ability to attack. Companies also gain experience and points that can be spent unlocking skills that can affect the real-time battles or the campaign map, or both. It could be off-map support or an increased unit roster when that company is in a real-time battle, or simply increase their healing ability on the campaign map. Ships can be used to soften up defenses with bombardments from a great distance. They can spawn new companies, which then perform amphibious landings, and aircraft carriers contain, well, aircraft. Aircraft have a set range, can be moved between airfields, and perform reconnaissance, bombing runs, supply drops, and transporting paratroopers. Each captured town and city provides you with something. If it's not a harbour or airfield, it will either provide a resource or be a partisan hub with abilities such as stealing resources from nearby enemy-occupied towns, reconnaissance to reveal an area of the map over time, pinning down nearby enemy companies so they can't move, or surrounding an undefended town, eventually capturing it for you. Then a few final points. Throughout the campaign, you will be advised by an American general, a British general, and a member of the Italian resistance. Each will encourage a different approach throughout the campaign, and the more you listen to one, the more loyalty points you will receive from them, which unlocks rewards that disappear when their loyalty drops. If you concentrate on garnering loyalty from one, you'll unlock more powerful rewards, or you can balance your approach across all three. You can pay a one-off cost to boost the amount of resource you receive each turn from fuel depots, etc. Successfully capturing a defended town yields a nice chunk of resources, skill points, and loyalty, encouraging you to fight. Units placed in a forest can be camouflaged for surprise attacks. Your units have a zone of control, so they can block a narrow pass, and bridges across the map can be destroyed to further restrict movement. All in all, there's a surprising number of mechanics, but nothing like as deep as Hearts of Iron 4. Hopefully by now you have an idea of what it's like to actually play the game, so let's address some of the more practical considerations to help you decide whether the game is right for you today. The North African campaign eases you in gently and never really gets going, so there's no particular challenge there. The Italian campaign, however, takes a good few hours to learn as there are so many mechanics, but ultimately they are all basic and straightforward. The Skirmish mode is easy to learn, but difficult to master, so players used to Code 2 will feel at home right away, and with intuitive cover and counter systems, other RTS players won't be far behind them. What's striking about each of the three game modes is that they are all incredibly easy to pick up and put down. Although some of the grander story missions in the Italian campaign can take up to an hour, on the whole it's a streamlined experience with mostly short skirmish battles, making Code 3 a great choice for players with limited time to game. Although multiplayer skirmish with up to 3 friends is available, it isn't possible to play either the North African or Italian campaigns with friends in the co-op mode. The North African campaign is overall too soon. However, the Skirmish mode has challenges to bring you back, and new battle groups that encourage different playstyles are always on the horizon. Then the Italian campaign has decent replayability due to the size of the map and the sheer number of towns and cities, making each playthrough almost unique. So longevity really depends on which of the 3 elements of the game appeals to you. The game released its first DLC, Hammer and Shield, in December 2023, which contains 2 new skirmish battle groups along with a new company type for the Italian campaign. Although a welcome addition to the game, the problem is the price, especially since the battle groups can be received for free if you grind the challenges for in-game merit, making it difficult to recommend the DLC until there is a significant discount in the future, which also means the digital premium edition of the game is equally not worth it. There are many mods available, but 99% of them simply add a new skirmish map, although there are a few that add new units, some cosmetic changes, and even a zombie mode, with a camera mod to zoom out further being a particular highlight. To be blunt, this game is simply not worth its full price tag, but the discount of 33% that was seen over Christmas 2023 feels far better value for money, since the game has improved significantly since release. However, if you're happy to wait, I anticipate 40 or 50% discounts over the course of 2024 and beyond. Code 3 does not offer the realism that Ostfront or Men of War fans expect from a World War II game. The aesthetic is somewhat cartoony, and the marketing has a "if Disney did World War II" look to it. If you play the Men of War series, I suggest you look at Ostfront, and if you play Ostfront already, I suggest you stay right where you are. For those who enjoyed the cinematic experience of Co.1's campaign, the North African campaign falls far short of that experience. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm afraid you will need to look elsewhere. But what about players looking to move from Co.2? Ultimately, it depends on what you think of the changes highlighted earlier in the video and the concept of battle groups. Co.3's multiplayer is pretty solid, but isn't a $60 upgrade from Co.2. But there is now a stronger argument to pick it up in the sale. A potential niche Co.3 could fill is for grand strategy gamers who have adult responsibilities. The Italian campaign is easy to learn, then pick up and put down, with a satisfying ebb and flow between the real-time battles and turn-based campaign map, and with the tactical pause, it's perfect for those looking for a grand strategy light game like the Total War series who don't mind the World War II setting. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy this style of review, consider subscribing to be notified of future content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!